Hi, today we are going to be doing Enviroscapes, watershed models to show how water moves through the watershed and how non-point source pollution can affect water quality. And so we're going to have different kinds of pollution put on the watershed, and then we're going to rain on it and see where that water goes. And hopefully today you'll learn something about how water moves through a watershed. It also can affect groundwater, and that's where we get our drinking water from. And so we'll be able to look underneath as well when we're done with the models and see how that pollution has actually affected the entire watershed as well as the groundwater. These models are actually from the Meadville Area Water Authority, and we thank them for letting us borrow these to do this demonstration. And I hope you learned something new today about watersheds and how water moves through a watershed.
A watershed is an area of land which is determined by topography, or the hills and valleys as to where the water flows. All water flows downhill because of gravity. Therefore, any precipitation we get, rain, snow, sleet, or hail, that falls within that designated area has the potential to reach the main water body as it is shed off the land. The French Creek watershed has 10 major tributaries and hundreds of small streams that feed the main stem. If you look at a map of all the watersheds in PA, you will see that we are located here in northwestern Pennsylvania. We are also part of the Ohio River Basin drainage system in Pennsylvania as well. Our watershed is fed by the water cycle, or the hydrological cycle, as it is also known. We will take a look at each step in the water cycle and how water moves through our watershed. Precipitation in the form of rain, snow, sleet, or hail feed the water cycle. Most of our precipitation within the French Creek watershed, 75% of it, is in the form of rain, with only 25% being snow. When it rains or snows, some of the water flows directly to streams as runoff from the land as overland flow. Some water goes through the soil as interflow. Hard surfaces such as concrete, cement, asphalt, and other impermeable surfaces shed the water faster than other porous surfaces. Some of the water soaks the soil surface and moves downward through gravity, infiltrating the subsurface to the groundwater system, which then feeds springs, streams, and wells in Pennsylvania. The sun powers the water cycle. The sun helps all the moisture return to the atmosphere and clouds through a process of evaporation from all surfaces, including the main water source. Plants also take water and then give off water vapor through their leaves during the process called transpiration. The clouds then get heavy, and then we get another precipitation event, and the cycle starts all over again. We're going to be looking at our watershed model number 1 here soon and see how non-point source pollution can affect our water quality. Non-point source pollution can be many different varieties, as you will find out. It can be activities on the land that help carry contaminants such as sediment, fertilizer, pesticide, manure, oils, chemical, trash, etc. to the nearest water body. The interesting thing is during stormwater runoff, especially on hard surfaces like asphalt or pavement or cement, whatever is on the land gets washed off with the power of the water, whether it be oil and grease, sediment, leaves and grass, garbage and litter, you name it, it all gets moved with the water during a stormwater event.
On this landscape, we're going to have some different kinds of effects to affect the water quality. It can affect the water quality not only in the main water body here, but as well it'll filter down through and go into the groundwater where we all get our drinking water underneath. And remember, we talked about that on the PowerPoint that was before this. So the first kind of pollution that we're going to look at that could possibly affect water quality is people who throw out litter. And so we're going to pretend that these guys here in these cars actually had McDonald's for breakfast this morning, and after they were done, instead of disposing of their garbage properly, they threw it out of their windows of their vehicles. And so we're going to use this oatmeal as our
litter, and we're going to put it all over the road because these guys threw out their garbage right out onto the road. Okay? Our next thing we're going to look at is somebody who owns a car and they have a leakage problem. This gentleman here has a cool little van, as you can see, but he doesn't know that he's leaking gas and steering wheel fluid. And so we're going to use this amber colored liquid as gas, because when gas falls on the ground, oftentimes it looks kind of orangey colored. And steering wheel fluid, when it comes out, or transmission fluid, I forget which one, is kind of red, so we're going to put that right there. So when he comes out later, he's going to find these puddles under his car and realize that he has some leakage. And as he goes down the road, he could be leaving those things on the road as well. Our next one is the gentleman who's going to change his oil right here on the ground, or change his oil in his car. And his oil, he doesn't know what to do with it when it's all done, so he just takes it over here in his yard and he dumps it on the ground. That way he doesn't have to deal with it anymore. Our next one is the Penndot Worker with this truck, and as you guys have all seen, Penndot Workers driving down the road, actually spreading salt and sand and anti-skid on the road. They kind of have to do that because we live in northwestern Pennsylvania. But there was some black ice this morning, and so this guy came out with his truck and he was spreading sand and salt and stuff this morning so that these people in their cars can get to work. So we're going to put that all over our road here. All right, and then we have the gentleman who's mowing the grass here in his yard, right over here. And he is mowing this grass, but when he mows it, he has a tendency to not want it to pile up in his yard over here, and so he always turns the mower chute so that it goes out into the road. And so we're going to put some grass out here in the road along his yard, because that's what happens when people turn their mowers out and they go out into the street. And then we have the same gentleman who thinks he wants more grass and less weeds. And so he's going to put lots of fertilizer onto his yard here so that the grass will grow. And then he doesn't like certain kinds of things like dandelions. And so he's going to put some herbicides on his yard as well. Get rid of those dandelions. So this guy then this afternoon decides he's going to wash his car over here. And when he washes his car, he has it parked right in front of his house on the street, and he likes to make sure it's nice and clean, so he's going to put lots and lots of soap on it and wash his car right there on the street. Then we have a gentleman over here who paints houses for a living. And he's at this house right here, and he painted this house blue, and he has a little bit of blue paint left. And he doesn't know what to do with it because the next house he's going to paint is going to be pink. You can't use blue paint for pink house. So he dumps the blue paint out in this guy's backyard just to get rid of it so that he doesn't have to deal with it anymore because he can't use it for the next house. And we have this guy over here again who wants to clean out his cupboards. It's spring cleaning time, and so he's cleaning out his cupboards. He gets down underneath his sink and he finds there's a lot of cleaners down there and different household chemicals that he's like, I'm getting rid of all these and start fresh. And so he takes them outside and he dumps them right on the yard. To get rid of them instead of disposing them some other way.
Then we have our dog owners in this whole entire neighborhood. And this giant dog right here actually represents all the dogs of the neighborhood. And none of the people in this neighborhood ever pick up after their dogs. They always just leave the dog poo on the ground. It just kind of sits there until it rains, and then it finally maybe goes away. But this is going to be all over the neighborhood because, you know, we have more than one dog in this neighborhood. Okay. Then we have cat owners, because a lot of people have cats. And if you take your litter and you don't dispose of it in the trash and you put it out in your yard, then you have not only more cat poo, but you also have litter being spread all over the place as well. Then over here we have the farmer who has livestock, and they allow the livestock to actually get into the creek so that it can have a drink. So we have a cow in the stream here, but cows leave behind what? They leave behind manure. And every time these animals cross this area to get to this small pasture over here, they're eroding this bank. And so we have dirt exposed here along the edge of this bank that when it rains, it will probably go right into the creek. And of course, cows leave behind lots and lots of manure, and so do sheep, and so do pigs. So all these animals are leaving behind lots and lots of manure. Then we have this farmer over here who is plowing, and instead of plowing across here, he's plowing up and down the hill. And when he plows up and down the hill, and if it rains, all this dirt could possibly run right out into this guy's yard here. And then we have, after he gets done plowing, he wants whatever it is he's plowing for here to grow. So he adds lots and lots of fertilizer. And he also adds some herbicides so that he doesn't get weeds, he just gets corn or whatever it is he's planting for here. Then we have our construction worker over here. He's helping the farmer out. He's digging a thing over here for the farmer. And as he digs, he of course loosens up lots of dirt. And then when it rains, you've got all this loose sediment that could actually run off into your water system. And we also have our train right here. And this train is carrying crude oil. So I'm going to put some oil in this train. And as this train is coming down the track, choo-choo, he sees there's a cow on the tracks because it came up out of the creek onto the track, and he puts on the brakes, and as he puts on the brakes, he tries not to hit the cow, and the train goes crazy, and it spills over right into the water. This factory has some tanks underneath that are leaking, and when it leaks, it runs down right through the factory and into the area down there, and if it's not encased in cement or something, that could go right down into our water system as well. Okay, so after we've got all our pollution onto the model, then we are going to add a rainstorm, and we're going to have a torrential downpour to see where this water actually travels to on the model and where the pollution goes as it is rained on. We've got some sediment going into the stream. We've got some cow manure and some other stuff. We've got more water here to go. Usually we have 8 students raining on the model, but today, since we're doing this virtually, we're just going to do it this way. You can see that yellow pollution going down through there. Get over here on the dog, get the dog turds.
get the stuff from the train over here. And we'll see where the stuff goes. Okay, now if you look, you can see that this is starting to go into the storm drains. This storm drain here is actually clogged now with pollution and leaves and litter. We've got stuff from the factory going into the groundwater. Oops. We have sediment running down off of this field and in here as well. And look at all the stuff we have here that's getting washed into the storm drains. We've got the little stream here with black and blue stuff going into it, clear down into the main water body. Down here we have lots of cow manure, sheep and pig manure going into the water, and sediment from this open pit here. So as you can see, water moves through the watershed, but it takes with it the pollution that we put onto the ground. So what happens on the ground affects water quality. So remember that when you are doing stuff, that what you're doing can affect water quality as well. Here we're looking at the groundwater, and you can see that it's dark colored. The pollution ran down through the groundwater as well. So this is where we get our drinking water, and we don't want it to look like this.